स्मरामि वसिष्ठवामदेवादिवन्दितमहागणपतिम् महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं महादेवसुतं गुरुगुहनुतं मारकोटिप्रकाशं शान्तं महाकाव्यनाटकादिप्रियं मूषिकवाहनमोदगप्रियं महागणपतिम्.
Thank you, Madhusri. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Mrudula Ravindran, Head Department of Mathematics, CMS College of Science and Commerce, for welcome address.
Thank you, Ms. Arida. Good evening, one and all. So, I'm extremely happy to uh, do this duty of welcoming the chief guest for today's program. So, as we are already too late, I'm not giving a prolonged one. I just, in few words, I'll invite her. So, on behalf of CMS College of Science and Commerce, the management, principal, staff, and students, on behalf of everyone, I extend a warm welcome to Ms. RIMNA, of Director, Business and Education, Cognizant USA, New Jersey, USA. I extend a warm welcome to her on behalf of everyone. Join this link. Many participants are in the other link. I have to redirect them also. So, uh, uh, I, someone else will be introducing the guest to you. So, I extend a warm welcome to all the participants, those who are joined today, and a warm welcome to the parents of Ms. Rimna also. And whoever, all the staff members, students, everyone who has assembled here, I extend a warm welcome to each and everyone. Once again, I extend a warm welcome to Ms. Rimna. Thank you all. I'll just redirect these participants to there. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mrudula ma'am. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Srija, Associate Professor in Mathematics, CMS College of Science and Commerce, for the introduction of our chief guest.
Good evening, one and all present here. It gives me immense pleasure in introducing the chief guest of today's program, Ms. Rimna Radhakrishnan, Director, Digital Business and Technology, Cognizant, New Jersey, USA. She has completed BE Computer Science from Kumaraguru College of Technology. With over 17 years of experience in information technology, she has served diverse industries across geographies. In her current role as market leader, she leads the education industry for Cognizant, supporting digital and business transformation for clients across the industry, including higher education, education technology, and publishing in North America, managing a business of over $120 million. As a consultative advisor to clients, she helps them enable a better experience for students, driving a lifelong learner journey and commitment, leveraging their data assets through artificial intelligence. As a thought leader within the organization, she leads multiple strategic initiatives for Cognizant and has been responsible for building Cognizant's unique approach to artificial intelligence, integrating human sciences with artificial intelligence to deliver better business outcomes. She is an evangelist for diversity and inclusion within Cognizant. She also promotes involvements of Gen Zs in the workforce and leads the recruitment for Gen Zs across digital business for North America. She was featured in the Venture Beat Women in Artificial Intelligence Annual Awards in 2020. It's our pleasure to have you here with us, ma'am. I request Ms. Rimna Radhakrishnan to take over the session. Thank you.
Um, Thank you, Ms. Shrija, and thank you everyone for joining me here today. I'm sorry about the challenge, the technical challenge, and having to switch the links. I couldn't join the link. I don't know if any of you had the challenge, but I wasn't able to join the link at all. But we'll get started. Let me not uh, take any additional time. I'm going to bring up a brief presentation. Let me know if you can see it. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Yes, perfect. Thank you. So I know the
Follow
topic for us to talk today is about what corporations expect from new hires, right? But before I go into anything that I talk about, I'll give you one tip, something that I learned very early in my career, right? Something that somebody taught me when I went for a session. Um, he had told me, and that time he was the head of retail for Cognizant overall, right? Global head of retail for Cognizant, and I was like maybe 2 years into the industry. One thing that he had told me is any session, any meeting, anything that you do, try and try and get three takeaways for yourself from that meeting. And if you are able to get three takeaways personally for you, you should think of that meeting as a successful one or as an achievement that worth your time, right? So that's my first request from you. Everything that I say today may not be applicable to each and every one of you. You will have your own strengths, your own weaknesses. So look for the three key takeaways that you would like, right? Also, before going into what corporations expect, I would like to briefly talk about the changing workforce in the corporate world today, right? So today's corporate world has about four generations of people working in the organizations, right? Starting from the baby boomers to the Gen Zs. And the Gen Zs are people like you who were born after 96, I think, right? And I belong to the millennial community, but the earliest of the millennial community. But every organization has people from all the way from baby boomers to Gen Z work in their organization, right? And each generation has a different approach to work. Gen Z is the first generation to grow up in a world that's completely wireless. You guys are the true digital natives. Even as a millennial, I never grew up in a completely digital world. I did not have a mobile phone till I started working, which was like in 2003, till I was 21 years old, right? So Gen Z is the first digital native generation that's coming into work. And with the world going completely digital, it is expected that by 2030, about 30 to 40% of the global workforce will be Gen Z, right? So all the organizations are adapting or changing to what is required by the Gen Z population to come in, right? And to enable them the right work environment. So that's something that every organization is working towards. However, working across all of these generations has its own challenges, and I'll briefly touch upon them as well, right? So the understanding that each of the generation has about the other generation is extremely difficult, right? They do not have an understanding of like a Gen X associate does not have an understanding of what the Gen Z wants, right? That's a challenge. Their thoughts are completely different. Their working styles are completely different. Now we have people who are baby boomers and Gen Xs who like to go to office in person and work for long hours from there. Whereas we see millennials and Gen Zs who prefer to work remote, who prefer flexible work hours and the likes, right? That's so the working styles are different. And then the communication approaches, right? So since the communication approaches or the preferred communication approach is different for different generations, there are communication gaps. Again, a baby boomer prefers to talk face to face, whereas a Gen Zer prefers a digital channel. Oh, you know what? I have a chat. Let me just use a chat. I don't need to talk to that person face to face, right? That's the challenge that exists. So even though all of these challenges exist, the corporations still look for workforce across all generations. And the reason they look for that is each of these generations brings their own perspective, their own strengths, right? And with those different perspectives and their strength, the overall solution and the customer experience that they're able to deliver to their end consumers is very good. So that's the reason, even though with challenges across generations, organizations are now looking forward to generation diversity in their organization, right? So just a brief about how the workforce is changing. And the other one that I also want to touch upon, you know that we all went through the pandemic, or we are still going through the pandemic, and COVID has led to an increase in the option of hybrid working ecosystem, right? And this is defined as a business model where some of the core members potentially will be at office while everybody else works remote, having the flexibility to come in when required, when not required. So they feel free to come in when required and when not required, right? A recent survey from Microsoft actually states that after having experienced the hybrid work ecosystem, 73% of employees who responded to the survey expressed a desire to be remote and continue to have flexible work options. And 66% of organizations also said that they're looking at redesigning their entire physical space to accommodate more hybrid work environments than having everybody come into work. Now, why do you think I bring this up for you guys, right? The reason is you probably are going to enter into a work environment that starts at a hybrid workplace. Unlike a lot of us who have come in, where we had the flexibility to go into office, meet people face to face, ask questions directly, ask for guidance directly, you're going to have a few challenges when you start working on a hybrid model, right? And few of the challenges that you'll face is that you will not have face to face supervision. So when you start a job fresh, you definitely are looking forward for some kind of guidance from your manager or from your supervisor, right? Now, in a hybrid work environment, you're probably not going to be able to do that face to face. If you're in the same office, you're sitting next to your manager, you can just walk up to him or her and ask for any clarification that you have. That's not going to be possible. You're going to have lack of access to information, again, because you're not co-located, because you probably will not have all of that information directly, right? The third thing that you're going to have is social isolation, in the sense that you don't get to meet people as much as you would like to. And this is not just applicable only to us people who are joining fresh into the workforce, right? This is actually applicable to me because I live by myself, and this entire working remote option has given me a social isolation because I don't get to meet anybody through the 5 days of my work. I stay at home, I sit in a place, so it leads to social isolation. Now, how can you overcome those challenges when you start your work, right? I'm going to give you a few tips. First thing is, as you start work, as you look at how you get into the work, understand the expectation from your organization, from the role that you're going to perform, right? Talk to your manager, understand the expectation of the role. Now, build your own approach to how you will get to that expectation. It doesn't have to be a standard approach. One size does not fit all, right? So build your own approach to how you will get to that expectation of your role. Proactively ensure that you do your check-ins with your managers and you ask for mentorship, right? Because again, like I said, if you're in the office, you can walk up, you can talk to them, you will understand the details. But if you're not in office, it's going to be more difficult. So proactively ask for mentorship, ask for guidance, and do your regular check-ins. And the last tip that I'll give you is communicate. One thing that we have seen very limited, and like I said, that's the challenge with the generation diversity, right? Because even for me as a millennial, I prefer talking to people than just chatting with them. But I am having to adapt to the new generation that comes in, because they don't want to give me a call, talk to me for 30 minutes about what is happening or whatever. They can keep texting me for 30 minutes. They can keep chatting with me for 30 minutes. They are happy with that. I have to adapt to it. But one thing that you could potentially do also is get out of your comfort zone of just digital communication to have direct communications with your managers or even your colleagues, right? That's going to help you very much. With that, I will move on to few things that we have seen or we expect as qualities from our hires when we bring them into our organization, right? Of course, the most critical thing is the core competency that you are developing through your courses, right? You may be majoring in maths, you may be majoring in economics, you may be majoring in business administration, whatever is the major that you have, that's going to be your core competency that you're building, right? That's the foundation. But I will also say that that's only the foundation, right? That's not going to be the only thing that is required. It'll only help you get started. Most organizations today, they clearly define what they want from their new recruits. What is it that they need to learn? So as you come into organizations, you will have a clearly defined enablement set up for you, right? They will tell you what they need you to go, what training you need to go through. They will enable you with it. So what you learn in your schools or colleges is going to be the foundation, and organizations will give you the additional enhanced support to go through whatever extra is required, right? So I am not going to talk about your core competency or your aptitude as to what you need to develop when you are looking to get into an organization, right? I'm going to talk about some other expectations that corporations have from their new hires, right? Something that's not just the core competency. If you have any questions around the core competencies or what we are seeing in the industry today, you can post your questions on the chat, or we can actually talk about it once I quickly go over these topics or these points, right? So one thing that we expect from new hires is good analytical and problem solving skills, right? How will you develop it? It just, yeah, some people probably have that skill themselves, but I strongly believe that any skill can be developed if you have the right attitude, right? So you can develop that skill. You need to figure out how to develop that skill. Read more, start reading more, understand how to do certain things, learn something new every day, right? That's going to help you. When you read more, you gain more knowledge. That's going to help you think differently when you look at a certain problem, right? So that's going to be the second thing that's required from an analytical problem solving skills. Critically examine a problem. It could be a very simple problem, but think about it very critically and look at what are the different possible solutions for that problem. Once you think of all your possible solutions, define what is the pros and the cons for each of the solutions that you have considered. And then once you could decide the pros and cons, decide which is your best solution, and then articulate that well, right? That's something that we expect. Again, your approach to a solving a problem may be completely different from mine, but how you approach the problem, how are you looking at it, are you looking at all the options, and how you are articulating it is something that we definitely look forward to when we hire new candidates, right, into our organization. The second one, and I would say the most important one according to me, or maybe one of the most important ones according to me, right, is attitude. First thing, you need to have a very positive attitude towards when you approach anything. Second thing, you need to have a proactive attitude as well, right? Be proactive. If you are working on, if you have been assigned a task, don't just go do that task. Look at how that can be done differently. Go do some research on what else can be done on it. Go talk to your team members to understand what they are doing, right? So be proactive about anything that you do. Do not sit down and wait for people to come and say, oh, you know what, I gave you a task, it's going to take 5 days, I finished it in 3 days, let me just take the next 2 days easy. No, just if you have finished it, proactively go and ask for how else you can support the team, right? It may not be just the regular work. You could support somebody else who is struggling. So be proactive. That's something that we definitely look forward to. And this is not something that we look forward to only when you are hired. Even when you go through an interview process, I know I'm not talking about an interview process, but as you go through an interview process, that's also something that organizations look forward to. How proactive are you through an interview conversation, right? This next thing about attitude in general itself, right? Confidence. I would definitely encourage that you have to showcase confidence. You have to be confident, right? And that's something I'm going to read out a quote, and this is by Steve Jobs, one of my favorite leaders from the tech world, right? Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own voice, right? So just because somebody is saying something, just because somebody does not say something, don't give up on your confidence. Have the confidence to say what you think is right. Have the confidence to to speak up, right? So confidence is going to be critical attitude that you need to carry with you, right? The next thing I will talk about from an attitude perspective itself is look for a win-win solution, right? It is not always required that you alone win, or it's not always required that you lose, right? Look for a win-win solution. And when you look for a win-win solution, recognize what is the situation that's probably causing the conflict, identify what is it that you want out of that situation, examine the actual facts for what is contributing to that situation, build a hypothesis around what the other person wants from that situation, communicate, talk about those options, and then find a solution that will work for both parties, right? That's something that you also have to take to work when you look at thing that somebody senior tells us, right? That's not required if you think something is right? So if a senior person comes and tells you that this is how it needs to be done, but you think there is a different approach to it, be prepared to challenge that situation, right? Identify how you can, again, challenging does not mean being arrogant and just saying, oh, I won't do it this way, or I'll do it that way, right? There is a way you communicate, but challenge the status quo. That's going to be very critical, right? Think about it. If Martin Luther King did not challenge the status quo, if he did not step up to oppose the defined rules for the African American community in United States, we would in the United States today, there would still have been challenges, the rights that the African American community has, right? Only him challenging the status quo and standing up led to the civil rights movement, giving African Americans the right to go into public places, end the discrimination. They were even not allowed to go into restaurants, right? So if that challenge did not happen, there would still have been so much of racial discrimination in this nation. So challenge the status quo. That's going to be critical, right? The next thing that I'll talk about that we expect from our new hires is flexibility, right? Now, it's actually an interesting topic because the new generation or Gen Zers expect flexibility, but they are not ready to be flexible themselves, right? As an example, they prefer to work at flexible hours at remote locations. And I'll give you an example. I had this Gen Z hire guy who came in, he finished his training and he comes in. It's his first day at work and he is actually reporting in. He's calling in to check in with me to talk about what he needs to do. And the first thing he tells me is, hey, I'm very flexible. I can work any time zone that you want me to work, but I will only work 8 hours. I will not work beyond that, right? Yes, you're expected to work 8 hours, but that's not something that you would do on a first day of your job to say, I will only work 8 hours. Nobody is expecting you to work for 15 hours every day, but show the flexibility to be available in case there's a need for the work that you do, right? Go beyond what is required. Show the flexibility that you are ready to go beyond what will be required. The second thing, you may not land on your dream job on day one, right? Be patient, excel in the role that you are landing in, prove that you can do it, and then ask for a change. It will work, right? So show that flexibility. Wait, learn, do your job, show that you can excel in it, and then ask for that change, right? Also, every role gives you a learning. So use that and then build your skills on how you can improve on it, right? That's the fourth point that I would talk about. The next thing that we look forward from people we hire is the willingness to learn, right? Like if you, as an example, if you are good at statistics and you say that, hey, I will only do classification or I will only do regression, that is not you showing your willingness to learn. Yes, you may be good at regression or you may be only good at classification, but when you come into an organization, show the willingness to learn, right? Be prepared to learn. And I'll tell you again, another survey output that I will talk to you about, right? It is 40% of employers today admit that they rely on their younger employees and their graduates, the new graduates, for any digital and technology related skills, right? So while they leverage their mid to senior level employees for other skills, they are looking for newer generation to scale up on the digital and technology skills. So showcase the willingness to learn. Ask plenty of questions, right? When you ask questions, you are going to learn more. There is a method that we call the 5 why method. That's something, again, something that we use at work, right? The 5 why method, what it says is that if you keep repeating questions of repeating the whys, you will actually get to the root cause of a problem, right? If you just leave it at the first why, you potentially may not get to the root cause of the problem. I'll give you an example, right? Let's take a day-to-day example. The pizza guy, one pizza guy comes back after delivering a pizza to a customer, and he says, hey, the customer refused to pay me for the pizza. Now I ask him why, and he says, oh, the delivery was delayed. Should I stop with that? How will I solve that problem, right? So my first question was, why did the customer not pay? Now I don't stop with the answer for that. Then I ask the guy, why was the delivery delayed, right? The guy says, oh, my bike ran out of fuel, so I had to figure out a different way to get there, and then I had to deliver the pizza. So then I ask him, why did your bike get run out of fuel, right? He says, oh, I didn't have the money to fill up the gas. Why did you not have the money to fill up the gas? I get paid only at the end of every month. So I'm almost on the 22nd or 23rd. So I run out of money, so I can't fill up gas in my bike. Now, what was the challenge or what was the problem that we started with? The customer did not pay the bill. What is the root cause that we are ending with? The pizza guy, the pizza delivery guy, gets paid only once a month, so he does not have enough cash in his hand to fill the gas, right? Now maybe the problem that I, as the owner of the pizza organization, need to consider is how I can pay my delivery guys some, maybe on a weekly basis, to enable them to be effective in their job, right? So that's what I need to think about, and not just argue with the delivery guy about how or why he did not deliver the pizza on time. So the willingness to learn and the 5 why method. This 5 why method is not only applicable at work. Do this through your college today, right? If you come up with a certain problem, understand the whys and go through the 5 levels of whys, you will get to the root cause of the actual problem, and then you will be able to solve it better, right? The other thing that I would like to talk about from willingness to learn, right? Showcase the passion. Guy who's still, oh, you're a girl, you have only 3 years of experience, I have been here for 5 years, why are you coming and telling me what I need to do? Avoid bias, be sensitive to your colleagues, and adapt to the global culture. That's going to be very, very critical. That's something that we expect from you, right? Treat everybody equally. That's something that we expect from you when you come into the corporate world. The last thing that I think that I will talk about, and like I said, attitude is one of the top expectations that we have when a student comes in. The other one that we have from anybody in the organization, also new hires, is integrity, right? Integrity is critical if you want to be successful. Be honest and value honesty, right? Even as you go through an interview, if you do not know something, be honest about it. Say you don't know it. It's not wrong. But when you say you don't know it, show the willingness to learn about it, right? That's something that people look forward to. Take accountability for your actions. That's something that we expect. Be it good, be it bad. Some things may work well, some things may not work well. If it does not work well, take accountability for it. If it works well, take accountability for it, right? Good or bad, take accountability for what you do. That I think is very, very critical, right? The third thing from an integrity perspective that you should keep in mind is respecting your colleagues. Gender, generation, race, color, all of these, you will have a diverse population that work with you. Learn to respect your colleagues. That's very, very important. Be forthcoming with important information, right? That again, you don't have to worry if you are coming in new to the organization, if you are a new hire. You don't have to be worried about it. If you see something that's not happening right, say something. right? There is this, it goes, if you see something, say something. And I think that's a principle that my sister's organization runs with, right? So I really like it. If you see something, say something. It may not be happening to you, it may be happening to somebody else. Be forthcoming about important information, right? The other one critical thing about integrity is give credit when it's due. Now, there may be two people, you and your friend, who is working on a project. If the friend has done something, give him the credit. Do not take the credit for other people's work. Give credit when it is due. The last point that I will talk about is collaborate, don't compete, right? It is critical for you to collaborate and prove your capability. You're not coming in to compete. So these are some skills that we expect our new hires to come in or to have as they start their journey in the organizations, right? Like I said, again, core competency, your skills that you learn in college. I may not be the best person to say what from business administration you need to follow, right? Yeah, I work in a technology company. From an IT perspective, I can tell you what skills are in the market, and if you have any questions around it, please feel free to ask me. But some core skills that you need to develop outside of just the competency that you learn in college, and some soft skills that you need to develop, is what I have spoken to you about. I will take a pause. That's all that I had from a presentation standpoint. Do let me know if you have any questions. You can post it on the chat or feel free to come off mute and you can ask me your questions. I'm ready to answer some.
So yes, participants, do you have any questions? And before we leave, there is a feedback link in the chat box. Please fill that. Okay, please fill the feedback link so that you will get your certificate in your mail also. Please fill the feedback and leave. And those who have any questions, please come forward. Either you can put in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmute and ask.
Yes, please. Even if you have questions around core skills, again, like I said, I work in the IT industry. I can talk about skills that we see are required across the domain areas, be it retail, be it consumer goods, be it healthcare. From an IT perspective, I can give you inputs around those. But if there is anything else that you would like to know, go ahead, please ask me.
First, I'd like to thank the management principal of CMS College of Science and Commerce for giving permission to conduct this webinar for online mode. Next, I wish to place my sincere feelings of gratitude to the guest of the day, Ms. RIMNA Radhakrishnan. The first thing Madam gave was the 3 tips, the 3 key takeaways from every meeting. That was understanding working styles. You gave racial discrimination, how we should overcome the challenges. It was really interesting. Then you said about the flexibility, patience, the flexibility that we should be ready to go beyond the job. Then about the patience, we should wait for the change till we achieve. Then for the willingness to learn. Then you said about one example, ma'am, that was very interesting. Pizza delivery. That story was very interesting. Then some quotes, it really touched me. Be honest, keep honest. Then another one, if you see something, say something. That was all very interesting. Really, the webinar on what corporates expect was very useful for today's generation. We are really grateful to you, ma'am, for space. Then I express my sincere thanks to our HOD, Dr. Mirdura Labirindran, for arranging this webinar. I also thank HOD and staff members of other departments who attend this webinar. I express my gratitude to our department staff who stood behind today's program. And finally, I also thank all the students who attend today's webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.